Ladies and gentlemen, the following is scheduled for one fall. It is time for That Way Cool Wrestling Show! Hello everybody, welcome to That Way Cool Wrestling Show. My name is Danny J, along with Mad Mark Lindsay.
Hey now.
LeGrand Onslaught Jackson.
What's up?
Once again, Charles Gregory is on assignment. He will be back on the next episode. We got a pretty cool show today. It's called Freebird's Rule, and Mark asked that I explain this. And what we're going to talk about is kind of a double meaning. Of course, the Freebird's Rule, and that's the Fabulous Freebirds we're talking about. But we're also going to talk about something known as the Freebird Rule. Basically, the Freebird's Rule was that when they, as a three-man team, held a tag team title, which is generally the traditional two-man tag titles. Any member of the three,
Any two members
of the three could defend the belts. Okay, which was a unique scenario because you really totally couldn't prepare for a certain combination of wrestlers. Which would throw you off as an opponent, so
that's in kayfabe, of course, but in real life, you could actually have the workers go against each other. So it was nice.
Gave everybody something to do, and gave somebody a night off, So,
yeah.
But we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the Freebirds, but we're also going to talk about the different three-man tag teams. And if you notice a lot now, there are a lot of three-man teams that are popping up, especially in the WWE. It seems to be the new tight-knit faction in comparison to having a four faction or a 5 or 6 where it gets too big and maybe you run out of storyline. This could definitely be a part of the writers also saying, hey, maybe this is a little bit easier to write for, and we'll get into that as well. But going back into the Freebirds, which were Hall of Famers. Original Freebirds being Michael P.S. Hayes, Terry Bam Bam Gordy, and Buddy Jack Roberts. If you remember, Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy were a team, and then the promoters brought in Buddy Roberts, who was slightly older, and they learned a lot from Buddy. If you talk to Michael Hayes, he'll say many times that he learned a lot from Buddy. Buddy was the guy to bring in.
He was a workhorse.
Yeah, he was a big workhorse. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely saw them in their incarnation in Texas, with the Von Erichs. But I saw them originally, I think, and it was all based on just the way if we remember, we always used to say Legends of World Class Wrestling.
Yeah, after school, 4 o'clock on ESPN. Yeah,
but they went back so many years. So what happened was I really saw them on UWF live.
Yeah,
and I said, "Oh, these guys are cool. They're whatever." And then you see them because the tapings, the Legends catches up to when the Freebirds entered into Texas, and now I'm seeing them, but now I'm getting their biography by watching World Class, and I'm like, "Oh, this is really cool." And they're noted for being the first team to use rock and roll theme music coming into the ring and creating that rock and roll, that larger than life atmosphere with wrestlers. And I honestly think they should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time before they were actually entered, but because it almost seems like they entered them in because Michael Hayes wouldn't shut up. You know what I mean? But like they really were deserving, and I'm glad that they're in. It evolved in later years to Jimmy Garvin joining them, which Jimmy Garvin in Texas was like the unofficial
fourth member.
Yeah, he was it's like the Clique. If you want to relate it to anything today, it was like the Clique. Jimmy Garvin was a Freebird, an unofficial Freebird.
Later on, he hooked up with Diamond Dallas Page and Michael Hayes, and they did their rendition.
Of it, right? And then Terry Gordy was there with Jimmy Garvin and Michael Hayes.
In '89 NWA, yeah.
Right, and then they brought in Brad Armstrong under the mask.
Bad Street.
I loved Bad Street.
I loathed Bad Street.
Really?
Yeah, come on, man.
I mean, it was like not the Freebirds, quote unquote, but like what better guy than Brad Armstrong to have you?
Which was great because if you recall, Bad Streak debuted against the Young Pistols, which was Brad Armstrong's brother. Steve Armstrong.
Armstrong, yes. So, which made for a good match. You know what I mean? And you
didn't
was
put
like
the milk away after breakfast.
I'm telling Daddy.
I'm telling Dad on you. Dad, straighten up.
Bullet Bob.
Dad,
Guess what, Dad?
Dad, straighten up. It's like poor Bullet Bob, man. He suffered like many of those guys. He has those rounded shoulders. It looks like he was like a pack mule, unfortunately. But what a great rendition. And the cool thing was, and understand that in NWA and then later WCW, Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin were not young guys.
No.
But how young did that team look?
Yeah.
Because it was the 90s.
They looked cool.
They looked really cool, but they didn't look like they were on their way out.
Furry chested, colorful tights,
Right.
loud music, rock and shock. It's still played.
Right. And the thing was, they were such a great tag team. They were really cool with the world and the U.S. tag titles. I loved that rendition of them because it really did because the funny thing was the Freebirds, the original Freebirds, neither one of them looked right together, but they gelled so well together. They were such a legit companions of the road. You know what I mean? But Terry Gordy didn't look anything like Michael Hayes or Buddy Roberts. Buddy Roberts looked like the angry grandpa of the rest of, you know what I mean? And then you watch Buddy Roberts, and Buddy Roberts was because when I saw Buddy Roberts really wrestle, like I said, live once again, he was the UWF TV champion. And I saw him
until Savannah Jack had his way.
Savannah Jack, yeah. I mean, I saw him. Who was it? Sweet Brown Sugar. He beat up, and he was wrestling. But then Savannah Jack came in. He took the title from him, and I think Savannah Jack dropped it to Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert.
Maybe,
so.
Or Terry Taylor. So, was it Gilbert? It may have been Gilbert.
Gilbert, because then Gilbert dropped it to Taylor.
Taylor,
And then Taylor took it into NWA.
But Taylor and Gilbert were managed. Gilbert was Taylor's manager.
Not the time that he won the title.
Okay, gotcha.
But he did a heel turn.
Gotcha. Yeah.
He did a heel turn and started hanging with Gilbert.
That's right.
It was
Chris
Gilbert.
Adams.
Yeah. Remember?
Yep.
But we're getting off subject. But just to get that rule, like Buddy Roberts was the TV champ, and justifiably so. What better guy to be and the TV champ, much like the Intercontinental title, that's your workhorse, and that's exactly what he was.
Yeah, and then Gordy was the big guy. He was the EWF champion for a while.
Yes.
And then he had Michael Hayes on the commentary. So Michael Hayes has always been a great talker.
Yes.
You give him some points and he'll get it over. So they were just used very well by EWF.
I think that helped Michael Hayes overall because he was so good on the mic. That allowed him to save his body. Because I think in a lot of times we're like, all right, just do the manager role, manage them, don't wrestle. Just manage them and talk. Because Terry Gordy couldn't talk. Buddy Roberts couldn't talk. Buddy Roberts, much like an Ole Anderson or something like that, he could talk, but you didn't want to hear his voice.
Right.
Because like that, you know what I mean?
I'm bringing the Samoa SWAT team.
Yeah. He sounded like Burgess Meredith as the penguin. But that was the thing, so I think in hindsight, that saved Michael Hayes, I think, over time, and then made his career a lot longer than what it probably could have been because of his gift of gab. Because Michael Hayes, just like a Jake Roberts, just like an Arn Anderson, just like a Ric Flair, one of very few people who promo style are second to none. Right? There are not many people who can cut a promo. There really aren't.
Cut a good promo.
Cut a good promo. Yeah, you're right. Cut a good promo. Now, you can go today. You have The Rock, and you can have, even John Cena can cut a promo. He doesn't stutter on his words. He gets people excited. He can talk, etc. But that style is so lost on the older talent, because they really, well, and once again, they weren't hindered, I think, by scripts. They were given ideas and say, listen, just do me a favor and run with this. I remember I was filming. It was Cousin Luke. Remember Cousin Luke?
Yep.
Right. He had a school that he did, and it was a graduation.
It's another Freebird trifecta. You have Cousin Luke, Uncle Elmer, and Hillbilly Jim.
There you go. Look at that. See that? And the point of this story was I was filming his school graduation. He had wrestling matches there and stuff like that. And one of the guys that was a special guest there was Manny Fernandez. So I go over to Manny and I said, Manny, do me a favor. Can you do a promo? And he said, yeah. I said, all right, so do me a favor. Just say something like, hey, this is Manny Fernandez, and you're watching, and I needed him to say certain taglines, right? And he said, how about I just say what I want to say? And he shut me up. And I said, yes, sir. You say whatever you want to say, but just kind of say that. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. And it when I think back to that, it goes back to this where it's like, just tell me what you need me to get across. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me what I have to say, because I am who I am. These new talents can't do that. They're like, please.
Well, they're not allowed to do that.
Give me a teleprompter. Give me something. You know,
they're not allowed to.
I would love, honestly, because you would see the cream rise to the top.
Yeah.
Which is a term that LeGrand uses all the time. If you sat there and say, listen, guys, we're going to go out there and I'm going to take any one of you guys. I want to see who can actually cut a promo.
Yeah. Here's 3 bullet points. Get this over.
Yeah. I would love to see who does it. And just say, do it on your own. Because I think you would find that certain people that you think suck are probably good, and vice versa. You know what I mean? And the ones that really are over would probably still be stable, but I think you would see a lot of different talent rise up, and I think it's something to say about this older talent like the Freebirds, who were able to just create this thing on their own. The Freebirds are what they are. Nobody created that but them. Okay? That's a big, big thing. And this is why they're so individual. This is why they're referred to. The New Day, when they introduced them into the Hall of Fame, they were being referred to, and I think it was just lack of any other 3-man team, but they were being referred to as a modern-day Freebirds. I don't think the New Day are a modern-day Freebirds, but I think they maybe encompass the we're free-spirited, we do what we want type of thing. You know what I mean? It's a far stretch to get back to Kevin Bacon. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? I kind of get it. I was like, I'm not on board with you saying this and saying, yes, that you're legit right. No, I can't say that. But I think the New Day, you know, I see where you're going with it. But getting into the latter part of these 3-man teams, the 80s and 90s were dominated by the Horsemen.
Well, Horsemen, but
I know they're larger teams too, obviously. Yeah,
but you're forgetting one of the 3-men teams from the NWA, the Russians.
True, very true.
Ivan
Koloff and
Crusher Khrushchev. Yeah,
there you go. Yep. Which weren't really. They didn't do a Freebird rule, did they?
They did. The Freebird rule, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
because it was Khrushchev and Ivan who won the titles.
Because it would be Crusher, Khrushchev, and Ivan, or it'd be Nikita and Ivan, or then Nikita and Crusher.
Right.
That's true. That's true. That's very true.
But to piggyback on your promo, you know, there were some brutal promos to go through with Ivan Koloff and Nikita Koloff. It's funny because if anybody watches Nikita Koloff on that show a few years ago, Preacher's Daughter, he's about as calm and as it's like you perfectly Minnesota English, you know. It's like
it's been years, you know. He's been here for years, so you know.
Again, if there was a camera for the looks.
I met him a few years ago. He did our opening for our second show in season 1. And I said to him, "Oh my God!" I was talking to him, and you know, saying, "Oh, you were great. You're the uncrowned champion." Blah blah blah. And I'm being honest. I wasn't being a mark. I was being a mark to a point, but I was like, you know, I wasn't trying to say stuff because I was in front of him. This was legit
stuff that should have happened.
Right, and I'm like, fans. Right, as a fan, I really liked Nikita Koloff. He took over the mantle of Magnum TA, and you know, went from there. So I said to him, I said, Nikita, would you mind doing a promo? He says, yeah, sure, brother. What would you like? Just like that.
Yeah.
I said, and I told him things. He says, okay, what's it called again? I said, yeah. And he goes, okay. And he turns around. And it was like a switch. Like an over the top.
Yes.
So do it, and he goes through the whole thing, and I'm like, and I'm like, and now I'm marking, right? I'm filming the thing, I'm trying to stay steady because I'm a cameraman, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, he's doing it, and I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, if this show doesn't get off the ground,
I still have
this, and I'm gonna keep this, I'm gonna save this forever, you know what I mean? And I still have it on my phone right now. I still have it, you know what I mean? But like, what a great guy. I mean, what a great guy. And we go back and we say, like, not a great worker or whatever the case was. But, like, in that whole thing with the Russians, with Crusher Khrushchev, who was pretty bruisey, big guy.
He had better success at Smash.
Right. Ivan was definitely Ivan. Mm-hmm. And he was a sparkplug. But Nikita was such this imposing force back then. And we always talked about Luger being big and stuff like that and Hawk. But, I mean, Nikita was almost
huge when he first came out.
About as big as Hawk was.
Yeah, when he first came
out. Hawk was like the benchmark, I think, in NWA of a big guy.
I think, and I don't have anything to go back on this one, but when you look back at 1985 Nikita and then 1992 Nikita,
big difference.
He stopped taking his vitamins, and so still in great shape, still very toned and defined, but he wasn't.
Today. He looks the same way he did in '92 that you're reflecting to today. Now, granted, I didn't see him with his shirt off. I don't know what's going on underneath the shirt, but he still looked in shape, like he could go wrestle.
And he retired at 33 when Vader hurt him on Halloween Havoc '92.
Yeah, with the powerbomb, right?
He was gonna take some time off. He just said, "I'm done." 33 years old. At I don't want to say the peak of his career, but he was definitely believable. Yes. And you definitely thought that, hey, maybe 1993 was the year he was finally going to win the world title.
And if you think about it, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, because at 33, that's about the time when they start bringing the guys up for the main title.
Right, yeah.
Because now you've matured enough, you had enough matches under your belt, you could actually be a general in the ring, you know how to work the crowd, and and it's like, you know what, back then, at 33, you were primed to take that spot, and Nikita had all the stuff to do it.
That's why I never got my title shot, because I got in at 34. I missed it by a year. I missed it by a year.
And all that talent, too. Sorry.
Oh, it was just
Russians were those records.
Russians were good trifecta.
They were.
You had a lot of good trifectas in NWA.
And then you had you had the Powers of Pain and Ivan Koloff.
6-man tag team.
They were 6-man tag team, but and they kind of still were holding on to the 6-man tag titles. They didn't really showcase them that often. I don't think it was a big draw.
No, it was just something to appease the Road Warrior fans.
Yeah.
See, they're champions.
But,
6-man tag, but they're champions.
To the point, I think it was something to appease Dusty Rhodes.
Well, right, to get over with the Road Warriors.
Yes, because if you notice, and the more people said this, and I was a big Dusty Rhodes fan, I still am, but like, you see, you're like, Dusty really did put himself in a lot of the big shit to kind of put himself over. And
Ronnie Garvin talked about that.
And Ronnie Garvin talked about it. Tully Blanchard talked about that. And I'm thinking, well, I said, granted, we don't know backstage. We weren't there. I said, but, I said, I mean, everything seemed to have worked. I liked it all. I wasn't like, but then I look back and I'm like, yeah, he was with the Road Warriors. And then when Sting was big, what was he doing? He was trying to
Starcade,
He was teaming with Sting.
Yep.
Then superpowers or something?
With Nikita.
Nikita, right? Well, granted, Nikita stepped up and took the mantle of Magnum TA, who he was with Magnum. Well, he was with Magnum TA,
exactly
the Sting of the '80s. He was fighting the Horsemen and so on and so forth, and so I think that was more for him. And then as years go by, it goes away and it comes back. We had the York Foundation.
Yeah, Thomas Rich, Richard Morton, and Terrence Taylor. Which could have been a foursome if Mike Rotunda stayed around.
But he went back and did IRS. Was that his first run as IRS? I think it was. Because it was Michael Wall Street.
Wall Street in WCW.
And that was... It wasn't the York Foundation.
No.
Terrence Taylor got put in when Mike left.
No,
they didn't have the York Foundation.
No,
But he had... What's the name now?
Terrence Taylor actually joined the foundation with Rotunda. There's a, like, I guess in 1991 WCW, right before Rotunda left, Terrence Taylor joined, and then Rotunda left, and it was Terrence Taylor by himself.
Right.
And then that's when...
but they had, what's the name? Terry Reynolds with them.
Yeah.
Then, though. Because he didn't come on with Terrence.
Terry Reynolds was with Rotunda.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, but that was another big...
So who can forget the next six-man tag team champions of Ron Simmons, Dustin Rhodes, and Big Josh?
Oh my God.
No, I'm just kidding.
But you're right, though.
I mean, come on.
You're right.
There were some pretty bad threesomes back in that
there was.
time.
Then there wasn't there a
And then the stuff they did in the ring.
Right.
Right?
I'm sorry. Did I said threesome. I'm sorry.
But then wasn't there a I know Big Josh was one, but wasn't there a Dustin Rhodes, Brian Pillman,
Junkyard Dog? There was a lot.
Yeah,
there was a lot of
weird.
Yep.
We just need something for you guys
Yeah,
because we're paying you.
Oh, it was Richard Morton. It was Ricky Morton, Dustin Rhodes, and Junkyard Dog.
Yes.
It was 1991. It was very odd.
You know, they did a lot of things. Like when Robert Gibson left, they
Yeah.
teamed Ricky Morton up with Nikita Koloff.
No, it was Ricky Morton.
And
No.
Nikita Koloff.
Oh, in '88.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
when
thinking
Gibson
91,
left,
yeah.
not York Foundation, but
Yeah.
Gibson left and came back. But they teamed him. He was Rock and Roll Express Ricky Morton. And
Vince,
then,
I will be right there.
We were.
Hello, is Mark Lindsay there?
Listen, I want you to stop talking about this. You're fired.
Oh, great.
That's my best Vince McMahon
I didn't even start yet.
impersonation I can start now.
Hurry up and take this job so I can fire you.
You know, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about more about the six-man teams, including some of the teams that are actually forming today. And I think there's actually some teams that could be formed and see where it goes. And also not newly, but the bringing back of the six-man tag team titles. We're going to talk about that as well. Right here on That Way Cool Wrestling Show.
Since 1974, Cannon Entertainment has been serving the tri-state area, providing professional musical entertainment to thousands of our customers. Cannon Entertainment doesn't just play music, we are professional musical entertainers. We have personality, talent, and each DJ has a minimum of 7 years experience. We are especially trained for events like the one you're planning. We will customize your event to make it everything you want, and we'll give you our many years of experience to make it even more. Don't gamble with your affair. Be sure to choose the best. Cannon Entertainment. Check us out on the web at cannonentertainment.com. Call us now.
That's right. You can call them at 610-449-8908. You can book your private event or public event with them today. We're here in the Cannon Entertainment Studios, That Way Cool Wrestling Show. We're talking about Freebirds Rule, and we're talking about generally the Freebirds, but also other three-man tag teams and this style of wrestling that dealt with three-man tag teams. Of course, we're here with Mark Lindsay, LeGrand Jackson. Charles Gregory is on assignment, so he will be back next time on the next episode. So we just got to talking about. We were talking about the York Foundation, who was a pretty big one in the WCW. They didn't hold the tag titles though.
The six-man tag, no.
No, and they didn't hold the either U.S. or World Tag either, which I would have liked them to do because I think Tommy Rich and Ricky Morton actually gelled very well together.
Yeah.
Oh man,
for
it
a
was
time.
great to watch.
It really was, and I saw them live. I saw them at the old Civic Center. You remember those days, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Going to, and I'm sure LeGrand, you went to the Civic Center.
Yep.
To see NWA and all. I saw them against Ron Simmons and probably Big Josh. That's such a stupid pairing. But the lot of the three-man tag teams, and we say this because we're starting to see them more popping up now. The New Day.
They make sense now, though.
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
A lot more than they did back then.
They do now, and I think about the era that we're in, though. The big thing about professional wrestling, or wrestling entertainment, as the WWE likes to call it, or sports entertainment, as they like to call it, is writing. That's the big thing is writing. Who's the writing? Who's writing this? Etc. Which kind of takes away from the show, I think. But it seems like to narrow down or dumb down your subject matter. It's just going to make it easier for your writers to focus. Hence why you got things like the Mizraj, the New Day.
You had the Shield.
You had the Shield.
Mm-hmm.
3-man band.
That was. Hey, except for what's his name? They're all former world champions, except for I Got Kids.
Yeah,
I Got Kids. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Oh, geez, now you keep saying that.
Heath Slater.
Heath Slater.
Yeah, Heath Slater. Yeah. You had Drew McIntyre as NXT champion for a while. Then you had Jinder Mahal as world champion for a while.
Yeah, and then you had wasn't there somebody else who was a 3-man band? Jeff Jarrett and the Outsiders in TNA.
Yeah,
did that. They used to come out.
I don't remember.
That was TNA when what's his name was there. The writer.
Russo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They came out. In fact, they came out. The most famous thing is they came out.
SEX.
They came out. Yeah, right. They came out dressed as Elvis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All three of them, which was I didn't understand the reference. I think they were in Vegas, maybe. I don't know. It just seemed very stupid.
Which is funny because TNA on their very first show had the Flying Elvises.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jimmy Yang or whoever, and then Siaki and Sonny Siaki. Jimmy Wang Yang. See, I used to like TNA, Dan. There wasn't always me bashing TNA.
I know.
There was a time when I actually gave him a chance.
Go back to WCW though. Now you just mentioned something.
Mm-hmm.
There was the
Young Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Who were 3-man.
Then of course you had the other guys. Who were the Evan Courageous?
3 count.
3 count. Yep.
Evan Courageous.
Yeah.
Shannon Moore,
and then
Sugar Shane Helms.
Yeah. Hurricane. Yeah.
The Hurricane. Who was the Hurricane who popped up at this year's Royal Rumble, which was hilarious.
Team Canada. You had Lance Storm, Elix Skipper, and Mike Awesome.
Yeah, and then they expanded on that and made it
Hacksaw.
Huge. Yeah, Hacksaw was the imagine that. You know what I mean? We used the defector gimmick. It always has been like we had who was it that defected to back in the day? Was it Wendell Cooley or? Who was it? It was back in the day I'm talking about.
Oh, God, you have a lot of defectors. You had Johnny Ace defected to New Zealand, right? You had...
well, no, he didn't defect. He was already there.
You had the...
but no, who was the guy that... Don Canodal. Don
Canodal. Well, no, he was a sympathizer. He wasn't a defector.
A sympathizer.
Well, yeah, Sergeant Slaughter.
I'm about to say, Sarge was like the one that broke everybody's heart.
Yeah. And that was a 3-man team.
Yes.
It was him... Iron Sheik, who was Colonel Mustafa.
Mm-hmm.
And Sheik Adnan Al-KC.
Who was...
General Adnan.
Adnan,
yeah. Sergeant Slaughter. That was what you heard every week.
Every single time. How awesome was that? You know, and you know what's funny thing? It's like, when you think back to and we also said this too, and we'll go into it later, but because I want to jump forward this far, but Hogan and the Outsiders, the original NWO,
mm-hmm.
Before it became a storyline, that was it. They were the 3. But you had these, and also you had La Resistance.
Right.
You had
the original D-Generation X.
Yeah, Jeff Conway became him in La Resistance. He defected to Canada.
Sylvain Garnier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you defect to Canada? Canada gets picked on, and we're never at war with Canada at all. You know what I mean?
I like the Mounties.
I'm defecting. Yeah, the Mounties. Right. But then the 3-man tag thing. I think it's easier to write. Like you said, it's a more condensed little faction. You have someone that can hold a title and someone that can hold tag titles, and be done with it. And there's not an odd man out. It seems funny because it's an odd number of members, but there's not an odd man out.
Let's talk about current though. NXT has
Yes.
a few good.
Yes.
The Undisputed Era, of course. Yeah, Fish, O'Reilly, and Adam Cole, Bebe, and just the fact that modern. Now they came from Ring of Honor, of course, but they're NXT. I think we all agree is very good wrestling. It has a lot of steak and sizzle, and it makes the most out of everything.
Yes.
They're being used great. They came in with a bang. They have really shown their worth in NXT. And they're feuding with the Sanity, Sanity, which is another group. There's just a lot of, and to go back to what you said, it's tight knit. Creative can always have something for three. But, I remember back in the day you had the Heenan family or you had the Jimmy Hart family, and there were just so many people. Like, the Heenan family literally consisted of what? Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy, Andre the Giant, Paul Orndorff, Rick Rude, Hercules, King Harley Race, Haku, the Tama, the Islanders. You had 8 people right there that I just named. You couldn't... They were stables. They were Heenan family members. You had Heenan there, I guess, basically as a promo guy for the guys who couldn't really talk.
Yeah.
Let's face it, it was better on the mic at that point in time.
Right, yeah.
So they weren't...
But if you notice, though, you didn't have the whole Heenan family in something with one central thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was...
Diversified.
Yeah, it was very diversified. Right. And it was like, the Islanders were fighting with the Bulldogs.
Mm-hmm.
John Studd's fighting with Andre the Giant.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened to be with Bobby Heenan. Rick Rude's fighting with Jake Roberts.
Yeah.
Whatever the case is. And, but at no time was it like, I'm fighting with every member of the Heenan family. You know what I mean? So, but I think, once again, it goes back to writing wasn't as stringent then as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, when they're cutting promo, you have 34 seconds to cut this promo. Like, the whole live scenario effed up everything as far as the kayfabe of, hey, you do your thing as a talent. You Rick Rude, you Kurt Hennig, you Kurt Angle, whatever you want to call it, whoever you want to say. Like, they can't go off on a tangent because, like, the biggest proprietor of that was Roddy Piper.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about someone that could shoot off the hip.
Yeah.
And his promo time, the only thing they could say to him was say, hey, your promo's time is 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, there you go. Have fun.
Have fun with it. Whatever you do in 4.5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
And he could do his thing. And then they might have to sit there, and that's where Mean Gene or David Crockett or Tony... All right, fans, you know how you always have somebody would still be talking.
Thank you, Roddy, for your opinion and your thoughts and blah, blah, blah.
And they would still be talking off the screen. All right, everybody, and they would go off. They would walk off because they were still doing their shit. But that was like almost like the referee in the ring with the rest. Hey, it's time to bring it home. You know what I mean? That's it. The commentator knows. And so they were there to kind of like wrangle that in. Now. And I can't stand it. I can't. And Impact does not do this, but I can't stand it. We have these guys who are like, and like they're waiting.
Yes.
And they're like,
ladies and gentlemen, Roman Reigns. And then, and that's it. You don't see
you gotta say, man.
You don't see her anymore. You see Roman Reigns starts it, ends it, and that's it.
And he walks up, and then they
no questions,
and then
no
they cut
follow
to
up.
her. They cut to her,
and that's it.
And she's staring at him.
Now back to you.
She don't even say that.
It would be nice if they did.
Right? It was like she just like. She stares at him like,
it's like when
I don't need to know you, lady.
Yeah.
It's like when they used to do the backstage ones, and it would be the same exact thing. I'm here in the backstages of so-and-so, and here comes so-and-so. Here you go. Here's the mic. Say what you got to say.
Let me tell you something. You say this about the women that are on there because honestly, you only get like the Charlie.
Here you go. There's Charlie.
Todd Pettengill did the same thing because he would and here's so and so, and he was sitting there and he'd let him say what he had to say.
What's his name?
But here's the thing that cracked me up: when they would walk off, they'd be standing there and then they'd swing the mic back and forth like okie dokie.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it was like the big thing was like the guy that does SmackDown, Todd. Who's that guy? It was on NXT. He's the main guy on SmackDown now.
Todd Phillips.
Mm-hmm. Todd Phillips, very good on the mic. I like his work. Mm-hmm. He's very good. He's not like over the top. Like I can't say he's the best commentator in the world.
Right.
But he's good. He's good, and I can see him as a lead. And as he's doing really well on NXT, this is before they brought him to SmackDown. They had him on Raw, doing that. And now Braun Strowman. And it's like, did they like hypnotize you? Like, I want to like what happened to the brainwashing? Like, where did your personality go? You know what I mean? Like, you're really good on the mic, and you do not show it here. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's going to be Mean Gene.
Do what you do that got you here.
If you think back to Superstars, and you had guys other than Mean Gene, who do you have? You had who's the one that they
are these 3-man teams that we're talking about?
Well, we're talking about we're talking about 3-man teams.
Just trying to bring it on topic here.
Yeah. But in other words, you had the ability to really just like, hey, everybody, keep the excitement going. It shouldn't stop at the interview.
Well, since you went 3-man teams, we'll go Vince McMahon, Jesse Ventura, and Bruno Sammartino.
Yes.
So there you go.
There we go. We had 3-man teams in commentary. And we have today, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not needed today. They're not. They're really not.
It's too much.
It is way too much because they try and find stuff.
Since you brought it up, I'm just gonna go off topic. They bring back Jonathan Coachman, who was a legit, left WWF back in the, a few years ago, made a name for himself on ESPN, was very popular on ESPN.
Yes.
Basically just redefined his career. They bring him back to Raw, and he can't get a word in edgewise. Like, if you listen to it, he makes points that, like, okay,
Corey
they're kind of obvious.
Corey
he's the best play-by-play currently in wrestling.
Michael Cole doesn't want to let go of the reins.
Right. Michael Cole always cuts off Jonathan Coachman. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Let the guy talk. Coachman started out the same time as Michael Cole back in, 98, 99.
And was on Raw.
Right. So, let him do it. He knows what he's doing.
You had no business leaving me. You left me.
You're talking about Michael Cole, but Dolph Ziggler would never leave me like that. Anyway, there's another 3-man tag team, the Crash Crew. Kwame, Munch, and Jonah. There you go.
Pretty much.
That was a 3-man tag. But no, but now
Demolition became
a 3-man team. If we go into modern day WCW,
what's modern day? It's been gone since 2001.
Well, we're talking about prior to post 90.
So not modern day.
It's more modern day.
It's 17 years ago.
Yeah, well, that's still modern.
It's not modern.
If you look at an archaeologist, 100 years ago, it's more
Christ.
modern.
Go ahead, say
it. Jersey
City Triad, yeah.
The Jersey Triad, which was Diamond Dallas Page, Bam Bam Bigelow, and what's his face?
Yeah, I have his face right in front of me.
Right in front of me. Oh my God, he was great.
Chris Cannon, yeah.
Chris Cannon. And it was cool because, and then in that
Bigelow,
was
Candido, and
I was just going to say that was based off a triple threat.
Douglas, Benoit, Malenko, and ECW is a triple threat.
The Radicals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, you had Douglas, Bigelow, and Candido were triple threat.
Listen, sir, if you're going to challenge the Wrestling Almanac in 1994, you had Triple H. You had Shane Douglas, Benoit, and Malenko in 94 and 95 as a triple threat. They were the first triple threat.
The first, but then the popular one was Candido.
The popular one or the better talented one? No, the better talented one was Benoit and Malenko.
But the popular one was Bam Bam Bigelow, Shane Douglas, and Chris Candido.
Where Rick Rude wanted to fuck with the franchise.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I love that theme.
But no, that was a big thing. And then now, if you move now, you have New Day has been for a year kind of like flying solo with this for a couple of years. They were, but then you had the Shield pop in, and the Shield left, which left New Day still holding the bag of being the only 3-man team for a while, and then the Shield came back. But now you have the Balor Club,
right? And then you forgot when the Shield were big, the Wyatt family got big.
Wyatt family,
and they had that one. Yes. If you remember that one match, it was a 6-man tag between the Wyatts and the Shield, and before the match even started, the fans in the arena were chanting, "This is awesome," because they. Again, when you properly get people over, which they did at that time, they have since killed both teams' momentum.
Yeah,
you get somebody over that you want to see. Hey, I want to see them face them, and then they did it, and it was great. It was awesome.
I tell you, when the Wyatt family, more so Bray Wyatt, when he went against the Undertaker, I honestly said if I was going to book this, and they do a lot of nostalgic booking, I would have had the Undertaker say, all right, you bring your Wyatt family and I'll bring my family. And then have him bring in Papa Shango.
Yeah.
And the Boogeyman. That would have been...
Well, Undertaker was never with the Boogeyman.
What's that?
Undertaker was with Shango in 91. And, of course, Khan and Mustafa later on, right?
Yeah.
But, and they're really good friends in real life. But you could have... Huh?
No, go ahead.
No. I was going to say you could have had...
Kane?
Kane versus Boogeyman. I wouldn't have done Boogeyman.
Well, the Boogeyman, just because we wanted to really be like, to mess with the
psychological
aspect of
it.
Why? Because the Boogeyman is what Papa Shango would have done if they would have went further with that type
if they had to let him cut loose.
Yeah.
I don't
if you think about it.
I don't see him eating worms.
I don't see them all eating worms.
You know what? But it would have been fun to watch a tag team of Papa Shango and the Boogeyman.
Yeah.
Let Papa Shango come out with the staff.
You don't even have to give them the titles. Just
let it happen.
Let
them come out with the staff, blow the smoke. All of a sudden, the Boogeyman comes out of nowhere eating a mouthful of worms. The kids would love it.
Or they have the staff and they put it in the middle of the ring and they press a button and it shoots worms out the at the top of the thing. Oh my God, what crazy! It brings you back to the days of Jake Roberts with the snake. Throwing the snake.
Peter would have an issue with all the worms. I can't believe they don't have an issue with all the worms getting eaten now.
They're gummy worms. They're gummy worms, you know?
Oh.
Gummy worms.
Yeah.
Right.
And he goes like this.
Gummy, real-life brown worms.
And he goes like this. He goes like this.
Food coloring.
He's moving his hand to make them look like they're moving. That's all.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, if you bite one head, they have another.
Oh, and they're mechanical. They move on their own too, right?
No, not mechanicals. That would get stuck in your throat and all that kind of stuff.
If you pass them, they're still alive.
Yeah, you know.
So when they got her. Oh my God. Right now, this is a three-man team. Right now,
yeah.
Three-man band, baby. I'm sorry, I had to get that out of my system. But the Legacy
the
original
Orton,
Evolution.
DiBiase, yes, Rhodes. Mm-hmm.
But I would have liked to see Legacy do more or go a little further. They won titles and they got
they
a lot
all
of
became
accolades.
Orton's lackey, which again they had nothing long-term storyline.
Right, and it just.
If you go ROH. It used to bother me. So they used to hold up the four horseman symbol.
Mm-hmm.
But the Kingdom were three-man. Because the fourth person was Maria Kanellis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the manager.
Yeah, which was incorrect. Because she never wrestled at all. Because they really weren't promoting women at that time in ROH.
By the way, congratulations on the kids.
Oh, the Canalises, yeah. And then he had to take her name in WWE. That's so demeaning.
Why?
Poor Michael Bennett.
Why?
He's Michael Kanellis.
I know he is. Why is that demeaning? It's 2018, man. It's the year of the woman. Get on board, dude.
Poor man. Just stop. Michael Bennett, if you're listening at all, and you're not, but if you are, I got your back, brother.
If you are, you be Mike Kanellis with pride because you're earning a paycheck for your family.
Yes.
Don't you worry about it.
Don't you worry about that, buddy. We got you.
Take the money and run.
But, yeah, and then you got the Miz Taraj, and you have the one thing that could have been, and they kind of they still could, they have an opportunity with his injury right now, is to bring, because we forget about the world greatest tag team.
Team Angle?
Team Angle was a three-man team.
Mm-hmm. You know, but I so desperately wanted them to bring Kurt to have Team Angle's return, but have his son as the newest member.
Yeah.
That would have been fantastic.
Taking over for Charlie Haas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, right now, if they did Chad Gable, Shelton Benjamin, and brought Jordan back, there's your other three-man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then all you need is someone to join the Usos. Because now, going back, their father, Rikishi, was with Too Sexy?
Yeah.
Too Cool.
Too Cool?
Too Cool.
Yeah.
Another three-man
Another
faction.
three-man faction. You know what I mean? So, you don't realize how many there were and how they intertwine, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fact that the teams are so, and we said this before about brands, the brand being, you split up your roster too much. If SmackDown and Raw weren't brands and they combined rosters, you could have a six-man tag if you wanted to, a six-man tag belt if you wanted to. I don't know that it would be over. It never really was over, per se, but you have so many three-man teams now that you have a lot of really cool scenarios as far as that's concerned. NXT, the War Games, they were all 3-man teams.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because it was, what do they call them again? The Cole and...
the Undisputed Era,
Era.
Authors of Pain, and Sanity.
Who was with Authors of Pain?
Roderick Strong.
Roderick Strong, which is not really with them, but
no.
yeah. But they went 6-man, which is actually a first for the War Games, because remember they were 5-on-5.
Yeah, but again, same thing. Okay, so instead of having 10 men, you had 9 men. A little bit more movement in the ring, less chance of an injury,
right.
And that was another great booked match.
Oh, let me tell you something.
That was a fantastic match.
If you go back, I'll tell you right now, that entire pay-per-view, we always say pay-per-view, but that show, War Games, it's on the network. I'm sure you can still see it. Watch it. That was booked from top to bottom. That was such a great show. And the WWE literally could take kudos from that show. It was booked so perfectly. There was only 5 matches on the whole thing, and it was just phenomenal. So definitely go see that. But there was a great showcase of 6-man tags on there. The cool thing about a 6-man tag too is that it creates that one other guy on each team that can cause a distraction.
The X factor.
It is the X factor, literally. When you, like you were saying, like D-Generation X, it was
Michaels, H, and China.
And Rick Rude.
Well, it was, or X-Pac, when they brought X in.
Yeah,
X-Pac
but I'm just saying, when you had Michaels, H, and China, she was the X factor because she was a woman,
right?
But she can punch you in the mouth like a man.
But it's like you think you got all things covered. You're back man to man because you're used to having 2-man tag teams or whatever. And here's this third person out there. It brings back a more physical manager in a sense.
We forgot the Mexicools.
No, we didn't.
We didn't get. No, we didn't. Stop it. Who was that? That was Super Crazy. That was Psychosis. And John Deere.
John Deere.
No, there was a third one.
There was a third one, right?
I can't think of it. Yeah.
I can't think of who it was.
Hoovy.
Yes, that's right. Hoovy.
Was it Hoovy? Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Everybody forgets Hoovy. He's a troublemaker.
I liked Hoovy.
Hoovy was great. I met him a couple times, but he's a troublemaker, man. He's a little too much of a partier.
Doesn't make him evil.
That Hoovy, no, don't make him evil. Just gonna make him cautious. But the cool thing about, like I said, with the 6-man thing, it's a unique faction type of scenario. The other thing is too, when you think about the fans today, we say it often, the way the WWE has booked stuff in the last number of years, the wrestling fan today has a exorbitant amount of ADD when it comes to wrestling. And I think if you bring too many people in the mix, they lose interest because they can't keep up with it.
Right.
And WWE not being like the NWA and having like multiple belts, that has 3 belts. Tag belts, world title, and intercontinental, or tag belts, world belt, and a U.S. So you only have enough for those 3 guys in a sense. You know what I mean? So if they could do the mid tag but they don't want to have like someone have everything.
Because remember they used to have the intercontinental and the European, and
yeah, they tried it.
Yeah,
the cruiserweight, which now is on 205 Live, but the cruiserweight was back in Taka Michinoku, and it was a laughing stock, and then Gilbert, and it was just abused.
It wasn't. Well,
Gilbert was the light heavyweight title then?
I guess, yeah. It was a laughing stock, and
Taka was a hell of a fighter.
He was
in
right.
the ring.
Yeah.
And they brought in great Sasuke, and then just it was just you bring in this international talent who is the next big thing in that division, and they brought him in for nothing. It was horrible.
And the other thing, and I think Lucha's gone right now.
Underground? I guess.
I think it's canceled. I think
I'm not quite sure. I think they might at this time still have like.
Because I've seen a lot of their talent
shows.
is gone.
Yeah.
It's like an Impact or wherever, but like in AAA and stuff like that. But they also had a Triple Crown. Not a Triple Crown, but they had a triple. Their version of the 6-man tag. And ROH, very recently, probably within the last year I would say.
I'd say
Roughly?
the last 2 years.
2 years?
Because he had the Briscoes and Bubba Ray Dudley.
Okay.
And
they have the
had
ROH, six-man tag title. And it's an interesting thing if it gets promoted. Okay. We all know in the WWE they're not big proponents of tag team wrestling, which is a shame because I think tag team wrestling is such a style that when you had teams that are worth it, that's fantastic. We're hearing stuff in the studio. I don't know what's going on there. It's not us.
they must be taping a porno because I heard some cats.
What does that even mean? I don't even know. You just what the hell?
Some pussy! Some pussy!
So thank you everybody for Mark Lindsay. But
Vince McMahon, you can still call me.
You can still call him, yes. But no, I think the thing is, if it's promoted right, it's one thing. But because they don't really produce tag teams and stuff like that, tag team wrestling, which is if it's done right, is such a skilled thing to watch.
It's a beautiful thing to watch.
It really is. I mean, people don't understand it. It's not. That's why we get frustrated. Like with us, we get frustrated when they just throw superstars together.
Right.
Back in the day, if you compare it, you can sit there and say, well, back in the day, you had Ole Anderson and who was he with? He was with Thunderbolt Patterson.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, well, they didn't look alike. They were two totally different stars, and they were tag team. They were national tag champs, I think.
My time.
I don't know.
But you remember what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know
right?
exactly what you're talking about. And, but I don't remember the second.
And you can sit there and say that, and then you could say, well, Manny Fernandez and Dusty Rhodes, and it happened. But the difference was there to now is that they were a tag team and teamed together.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you put John Cena and Shawn Michaels together, two totally different gimmicks altogether, and this also has to do with the evolution of a gimmick versus now. Manny Fernandez and Dusty Rhodes, although different competitors, they were a wrestler and a wrestler. That's all you saw.
Right.
You see John Cena, the evolution of a thugonomic gimmick, and then Shawn Michaels, who's Shawn Michaels, and you put them together. All right, I don't see the connection at all. And they're coming into their own separate music, and they're fighting each other at the next pay-per-view. You know what I mean? So that kind of stuff doesn't make sense. So when you have guys like the New Day, that they're all together, and look how Kofi Kingston, for all intents and purposes, who was the general of that team, because he was around longer, was able to adapt to them. And you would think that they've been around for 10, 20 years. You know what I mean?
Let's face it, Xavier Woods, when he had his run as Consequences Creed and
everything, right? Yeah.
He was a hell of a talent.
Yes.
I loved Consequences Creed.
Yeah, it was a very cool team.
It was a great cool gimmick. Team. It was everything fit, So when he came and he transitioned in, and they were having a hard time adapting him into their mold, what better way to fix it? Kofi was having issues medically. Biggie was coming from his singles thing.
Yeah, NXT.
Yeah. Biggie was coming off of his thing with Dolph and oh man, here we go. Charles is going to call me now. I mentioned Dolph. And then you put them together, and a team that was supposed to fail. Let's face it. Let's be totally honest.
Yeah.
It was supposed to fail.
Got over huge.
Flourished beyond their wildest imaginations. They have a cereal, for God's sake. I mean, it's like Captain Crunch, Mr. T cereal, and Cheerios together, but
now they got pancakes.
Which they're
Bootio pancakes?
They should owe The Rock for the pancakes.
Oh, geez.
Pancakes, Rock, pancakes.
Because he didn't want waffles. Blueberry muffins. The Rock just wanted pancakes. No, I'm just saying.
But the three-man teams, just to bring it back, because now we're talking about a cooking show. 3-man. See, Charles is needed in this because he could have had something to say here because we're just going off in a limit at this show.
Well, right now we're having fun.
We're having fun
because this
yes.
is a fun topic.
It is a fun topic.
It's fun for us. It was fun for the fans to watch this stuff.
It really was.
Because I'm not even going to say was. It is fun because when they do it correctly and they feed it to the fans the way they should feed it, well packaged, well seasoned, and with all the glitz and glamour and the magnitude that it deserves with these teams, then it is one of the greatest things to behold.
Right.
Because now you have this perfect team of 3 individuals who come
Good
together as
unit.
one, as a solid unit, and then you have to think, who can we put against this?
Right. Who can we build because these guys are already established?
Because here's the deal: if they're a solid team, and this goes back to the Freebirds. If they're a solid team, they know each other in and out, and you're a tag team. Now you have to go find somebody so that you can match up the numbers, so you're not overwhelmed. But now you got to find somebody that will gel with you. So now you have a double whammy on you. One, you're fighting a losing battle because it's 3-on-2. Now you got to go find another guy that's going to help you and hope that he's going to pull his weight, and is going to take on the mantle with you because he's like, hey, he can say, hey, that's your problem. You know what I mean?
I got Mean Mark Callis. I got oh man, Dangerous Danny Spivey. Okay. Elix Skipper? No. Does Wonderkin? No. I mean, you got a bunch of people you could throw in there. You got a bunch of people you could throw in to try to get that. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to work until you finally find that guy.
Hey, we got Big Josh.
No.
Poor Matt Byrne. Let me tell you something. And what a wrestler to totally destroy in the 90s. But
Big Josh and Doink. I mean, talk about,
right? Let me tell you something.
Hey, if you think about it, Doink was a 3
Doink was a 3-man. Well, 2.5.
Dink.
The two of them together, they got on each other's shoulders. They made one person, so they were like a tag team. Stupid.
Doink, evil, Doink, and Dink.
Before I know at the end of our episode, but one thing I would have loved to have seen, one 6-man tag I would have loved to have seen, would have been some version of Eaton, Lane, and Condrey as which they do. They do that now at like conventions and so forth. But like back in the late 80s, early 90s, that would have been fun to see. Or even with Tom Pritchard, Lane, and Eaton.
They kind of did that
in Smoky
too
Mountain,
in Smoky Mountain. They did it with
not on a national
Bodies.
level. Yeah, not on a national level. Yeah, they did Heavenly Bodies, and then Eaton was kind of there.
Came in. Yeah,
but like I would have loved to have seen that on a national level because then you're talking about like you mentioned, you get a tag team like the Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah,
and they had to go out and get a third man.
Third man, and
then you can have a legitimate 40 to 45 minute match where you're not bored because the talent in the ring is so good. And they make frequent tags. You could build it up to an elimination style match. I mean, there's lot.
So much you could do with it.
There's so much you can do with a 3-man team, and I'm kind of glad it's back. NXT, and we skipped. Who's the Diva one?
The 3 of them.
It was Paige.
We have that's a Absolution.
The Absolution, yeah, it was Ruby Riot Squad.
Yeah.
So there are now. You mentioned earlier about bringing back 6-man tag. I'm not agreeing with you there, but I will say that we witnessed the first Women's Royal Rumble. We're going to witness the Women's Elimination Chamber. I would love to see a Women's Tag Team Championship, and that would,
I mean, today TNA is the only one that did it, and I think it was.
They didn't have the talent,
right? They just didn't have enough.
You have women right now that are main eventing Raw. That main event. They just main evented this past Raw, but you had a 2-hour. You had a 2-hour gauntlet match, but still, the women were the last thing seen on Raw. People are buying into it. It's working. It's getting over. Let's make a tag team.
And the problem with this, and the problem with the 6-man things, like when you bring in the Riot Squad and Absolution and all these other ones, is that not that they run out of talent, because they have a pool of talent to pull from if they want
to say, because you can grab
people are on a Rolodex.
Shimmer,
You know,
all the ladies of Shimmer. You can bring any of those in.
And then you had the women for the Mae Young class. I would love to see Tessa.
The Mae Young class.
Tessa Blanchard. I would love to see Tessa Blanchard get an opportunity.
these are women that are not in NXT.
Yeah.
But competed in that thing, and they have on a Rolodex. They can pull up at any time. You know
exactly.
I mean? So once again, bringing up a women's show and letting them shine, you can't have anything when your entire roster consists of 8 women.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When your entire roster can compete in one match. That's not a roster to me. Mm-hmm. And I find it very, not insulting per se, but it's disappointing because, like you said, there's so many women out there that are worth looking at and worth seeing and stuff like that. And if 205 Live can have its own show, and honestly, they should probably bring in a few more cruiserweights and maybe have a tag team for them. Let them have their own thing, just like NXT does. Do it for the women. Why not? And do it, But the problem is, though, is that here's the deal, and this is why we say, oh, well, their cruiserweights are exclusive to Raw, but they're only on 205 Live, because they need you to fucking go to the network. If you don't go to the network, you don't need the subscription. If you don't get the subscription, then they're losing money because they're not selling pay-per-views anymore. You know, so it's a big thing where everything is just moving to the network, and it's like pretty soon you won't get WWE on USA anymore.
Right.
You won't get
stuff. You know what I mean? That's a very realistic possibility when the contract's up next.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So,
and you're telling me now there's also talk of increasing the price of the network. You're telling me you wouldn't pay for that to have your Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, and pay-per-views for $15 a month? Sign me up, dude.
Wouldn't go over $15.
Well, no. I mean, they're going
considering that I'm still paying for my cable.
$14.99. Well, see, I'll talk to you after the show about why you're paying
my
for cable.
wife hates streaming.
Well, all I'm saying is that $14.99 a month that's the same price as HBO, and for fans like us, you're going to get all of your pro wrestling. I won't even talk about TNA. You're going to get all of your pro wrestling on the network
served up to you on a platter,
for $14.99 on any platform.
But see, what they got to do though, they got to open up like with a lot of the content. Like a lot of people to get the network get it for the old nostalgic stuff that they can't see anymore, and they limit how much you can see.
That was fair of you to say, but for me, I'm now watching it for NXT has become my. Yeah. That's like my 45 minutes of me time. Oh, I'm going to watch NXT now. That has become something I look for. And here's the kicker. I read the spoilers, and I still want to watch it. You tell me, you and I mentioned it earlier, that we can skip Raw or tune in late, and we'll watch what we think we need to watch to pay attention. NXT, I'm watching NXT.
Right.
I may know what happened. I'm going to watch it.
And with Ronaldo on there calling
it,
I think it's just fantastic because he's my number one guy now, honestly. And people don't give him enough credit. I think as a commentator, he's great. But getting off of commentator, because once again, the 3-man teams and all. But we're at that time.
Go
right ahead.
One thing.
Yes.
I would like to see a Maidens of Mayhem, which is a play off the floor horseman. Charlotte Flair.
Yes.
Tessa Blanchard.
Yes.
But I cannot think of a third member that would fit into that mold.
Well, who else do you have? Anderson doesn't have any kids that are daughters, I don't think, that are wrestling. I would want them to all be lineage.
That's what I'm saying.
Could you imagine? Oh, my God.
That would be awesome.
Maybe Mongo McMichael has a kid.
Baby Doll isn't she sisters with or I don't know the relation, but Baby Doll has a daughter who's trying to get into wrestling, and it's related
Sam
to
Houston, right?
Sam Houston and Jake Roberts,
because
they're brothers, they're half brothers.
Yeah.
So Baby Doll.
But she was associated.
That's a stretch.
It's a stretch,
That's
a
stretch. Yeah. Let me go back and see who Dark Journey was. What she's doing. You know, it's like that. Go all the way back. Well, who else? You got
daughter, Darker Journey.
Darker Journey. Yes.
Wow.
Light at the end of the tunnel.
Sweeter Journey.
Sweeter Journey. You know.
Hey, whatever happened to Sweet William? Where's Sweet William at?
Sweet William. No. Listen, we're over.
Yeah, we're done. We're done.
Over.
We're getting goofy.
And he means as time, not as in like over with the crowd.
Yeah, I totally mean
We're
time.
not over.
We're not over. We just mean time. But what a great show. All right. Until next time, We got LeGrand Onslaught Jackson. We got Mad Mark Lindsay. And my name is Danny J. Check us out on thatwaycoolwrestlingshow.com. On the Facebook, which is That Way Cool Wrestling Show. We're on Google Play Music as well as Apple Podcasts. And go on Twitter.
The Twitter machine.
Twitter machine. And you can check us out at TWCWS Podcast. And you can look us up there. Make sure you like us because we just started the Twitter, so it looks kind of dwinking horrible. Only got like 16 followers so far. I need more followers on there because we just started it. But check it out there. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Goodbye, everybody.
The proceeding was produced by DJB Productions. Go to www.thatwaycoolwrestlingshow.com.